When I think of creating breakdowns, I think of creating the poses that define the energy and muscle tension within the character's movement. These are not just fill-in-the-blank in-betweens. These breakdowns represent really important mechanics. And in my world, there are two kinds: storytelling mechanics and functional mechanics. Storytelling mechanics describe the more extreme moments of energy or relaxation, the energy you want to be visible, to be seen. Functional mechanics are the almost invisible details: small residual arm swings, minor overshoots and slow-ins, ambient movement, and sometimes secondary animation like hair, tails, and clothing. We'll discuss the smaller, more functional mechanics later in the shot, because, as in most of my process, I like to start off with the more broad poses, the bigger, more visible breakdowns, the storytelling mechanics. So here we are, we're jumping on in. Or jumping back in, that is. What I have said that I'm going to try to work on first is this idea of storytelling mechanics. Now, the funny thing is that as I scan through this, it really looks like to me that I've got most of my storytelling mechanics built in there already. I think I really got a good head start on it in my blocking. I think it's just sort of built into how I approach blocking, is that that some of those mechanics are important, so they deserve to be blocked. There's going to be a couple I think that I'm going to add in here, and a couple that I'm going to really push to make sure that they read really well. And here's the ones. Well, let's just step through the poses that I have really quick. Let me play through this.
Do you want to see the rats? You won't be able to buy any. Nobody buys them. You only rent them anyway. But it doesn't cost anything to look.
Okay, so my thought is that as far as storytelling weight, that's really, and storytelling force, that's what I want to get across. This idea that she's expressing herself so forcefully that the weight of her body puts her out of control for just a little bit. I already, if I step through it, I did this, I texturized kind of the anticipation of it, and then as she swings her body down, I kind of worked in a bit of an overshoot already. It's really, really tiny. It goes down and then kind of recovers a little bit. I'm going to push that one. The next moment is when she says, you won't be able to buy any. If you watch, when she leans down, I've got the little anticipation, which I think I'm going to push in this, because I think winding up for that action is an important part of the emotional intensity of what she's trying to express. I might decide that she kind of overshoots this a little bit too, but the real important mechanics to me was as she's dropping her body down to kind of look him down and up in disgust, and as she's standing up, I wanted to show that the force of her body is pushing up. So I've already put in some of that head overlap. So it's kind of waving up like that. She is actually purposefully exaggerating her own mechanics in order to make herself look that much more just frustrated and infuriated. And then she opens her eyes and drops her body back down right there. She sort of collapses her knees a little bit, collapses her spine a little bit. That, I think I need an overshoot on that, meaning I think it needs to drop down and come back up. Just so she's exaggerating the effect of her weight on her body. I can't even hold up the weight of my body. It's just such a burden on me, the things I have to put up with. So I can push that. The rest of it, I think I want to leave it as smooth as possible, because if I can contrast the difference between the out of control energy at the beginning and the more the float of her movement at the end, the float of her intent, as if an external force is drawing her towards something. So it's almost as if she's carried by strings, to that second thing. I want to have a nice big contrast between that. So let's jump in there and check that out. What I'm going to try to communicate in this breakdown is from here to here, we want to show the force of her overall body going the direction that it's forcing itself into and then coming back. And then it's the force of these twists. We'll take the core, we're going to go a little bit over and a little bit more down. So down and up, That's basically the diagonal direction of the energy. She's coming back up. In fact, we can go a little tiny bit more over. Maybe we even come up forward a little bit. And then in this overshoot, we also want to, I'm going to do this with her whole body. I'm going to twist this whole thing. She's going to probably angle these shoulders a little bit towards him like that. And now I think I'm going to push, now that I see that that head movement go, I'm going to go a little bit farther this way. There we go. And let's see, can I nod her chin down into her shoulder a little bit more? I kind of like that. I think that's going to work. Okay. An important thing to remember is that the combination of energy and muscle tension serves to communicate the most important quality of your character: weight. So let's take the ball, the tail, the pendulum, and the spring, some of the most basic learning tools of animation, and some of the most obvious places to see the qualities of physical weight. If a ball is heavy, it has a more difficult time fighting the resistance of gravity. Therefore, it spends less time in the air and takes more time absorbing its own weight before it bounces back up and starts the cycle again. A much lighter ball has more freedom to fly, spends less time on the ground, and bounces back to the next cycle rather quickly. Or, a heavy ball, hit by a mallet, may take more time to accelerate, but also more time to be slowed down by friction and air resistance. A much lighter ball takes much less time for both. So, how long an object takes to accelerate, plus how long an object takes to come to a stop or change direction, can describe its weight. Or in our case, how long the energy or effort of the body takes to accelerate, plus how long the muscle tension or resistance takes to bring it to a stop, can describe its weight. In essence, our bodies behave like a hooked-together armature of balls, tails, and pendulums, and are held together and manipulated by an intricate set of springs, a very active and emotional set of springs called our muscles. If I were to pose and animate without paying attention to the actual construction and function of the body, I'd create something weird, unclear, and unsuccessful. But if I describe the behavior of these balls, tails, pendulums, and springs in a believable way, I'll be making huge strides towards creating a really impactful character performance. Now, let me just say that believable weight in your animation doesn't always mean creating realism. It can, but it doesn't have to. Believable weight creates more of a sense of, well, believability, one of the most important ingredients in connecting with your audience. As we continue on, I think she has control of this move where she becomes very, very dismissive of it. But the one moment, this collapse right here, it's again just a body language that helps complement the face's look of disgust. All right, so if I look at what's happening with her body, the S curve that's running through it starts right about here between her feet, goes up through and up through her head. So all I really want to do is increase that in this overshoot. Of course I want to go down, but I want this curve to go a little more that way and this curve to go a little more that way. So I end up with a slightly more exaggerated S curve than she had. And then I'll bounce back up. Oh, it's just sort of a springy, sort of S-curvy feeling. So I've gone down with it, and up, down, and up, down. I'm gonna avoid translating right now. I think that I can create this all with rotations. So if this, I'm gonna lean these shoulders a little bit that way. Gonna put the head a little bit that way. I think I need to do a little more with the neck. I think I need to collapse this hip a little bit more. See if I can collapse that shoulder a little bit more. That means I can increase this a little bit more. That's kind of getting where I want to go. I think the neck is a little bit too exaggerated. Let me just do that in the curve editor and get it closer to, let's see, what is that? Rotate Z. Let's just bring that back down. Not quite so extreme. Just pushed it down and then increased the curvature of all of these rotational joints so that it gives the appearance that it is going to kind of bouncing on its own weight. Bounce, bounce, bounce. All right.